Something you're bound to spend a lot of time doing when playing through Cyberpunk is of course looting new guns to use in your playthrough, whether you're picking up higher rarity guns off of enemies, buying them from shops, picking up uniques from quests, or just manually upgrading them yourself. You're bound to come across hundreds of different weapons in your playthrough that you're going to be using. So what happens if you decide to try and beat Cyberpunk 2077 with only common tier guns? First things first, we need to create a character. I actually really like Cyberpunk's character editor. It's not as refined as some other games by letting you, completely mold your face and everything, but it is pretty neat in the options that it does allow. The introduction is pretty much on rails. There's not a whole lot you can do here that, changes anything down the line or really affects the challenge in any way, but I went with Street Kid as it's my usual chosen starting option whenever I make a new character to play through Cyberpunk. I met Jackie after trying to steal a car. We got beaten by the police because, police brutality, and then me and Jackie became best friends, and I watched a cutscene of us, becoming renowned mercs. Kind of sad that we didn't get to really play through that, but oh well. For our first mission, we were off to rescue Sandra Dorset from some scavs. This is, again, just a little tutorial section. Nothing in the very beginning of the run is really going to be all that difficult, since the beginning of the run for the first, I'd say 5 to 8 levels are pretty much expected to be used with common rarity guns. There's not a whole lot else that you can get right away, but, other than that, it's just fairly standard Cyberpunk stuff for the first couple hours. Me and Jackie got into a bit of a heated sequence with a van. It, ended up running off the road and exploding, I think. I watched some people get assaulted by Max Tech, and then we almost got locked into our current zone. With this, I am going to go over the rules for this run. I can use any Tier 1 gun. By Tier 1, I mean the new system in Update 2.0, which changes a lot of how weapons and perks and all that work. Guns are now in tiers, Tier 1 through 5, to dictate their color rarity. Common used to just be common, but now common is Tier 1. I can use a Tier 1 gun, because all of them are technically common weapons. This does not apply to things like cyberware or consumables, such as grenades, healing items, etc., which have also been completely changed, but we'll get into that later. This isn't going to be, going over all of the changes with Update 2.0, because that's, a whole different video that I could make in an hour of covering all of the different things that got changed for the game, but we're just going to move past that and focus on mostly the weapons this run. So I met up with Dexter, who had a contract for me and Jackie to fulfill. First step towards that contract was getting a flathead model robot that we would need to infiltrate Konpeki Plaza. Of course, I went with the Militech route this time because that's usually what I do. I kind of usually just steal their money, but I figured, I'll actually pay the price this time with their infected card that they give us, which I don't normally do. I don't think I've ever actually done this in a playthrough, so it was kind of a nice little change of scenery. Once I'd, paid for their robot for the second time using the Militech card, they got pretty pissed off at us, and me and Jackie had to start fighting our way out. This wasn't all that bad. The enemies here aren't really that strong, and the weapons that I have right now are pretty decent for early game, considering this is when they're meant to be used for the most part. It was pleasantly surprising to see a boss fight here. I've never actually done this route, so I'm not sure if this is added new with the 2.0 update or if this is just here normally. Regardless, it's the first boss of the challenge, and it wasn't all that bad. I did pick up Chaos here, which is surprisingly a common rarity gun now. Normally it was blue before all this went down, so I'm not sure. I did end up using it a lot later into the run, because I didn't think that it was a common rarity pistol when I picked it up, so I didn't actually bother checking it until way later down the line and figured out that holy shit, this gun is white rarity and I can actually use it. It did become a lifesaver for the run, but a lot of other iconics were definitely not common rarity, which was also very sad. Anyways, skipping over a lot of the boring stuff, that being, meeting with Evelyn and doing the whole BD sequence, which, speaking of, I think is highly underutilized in Cyberpunk. I think that they could have done a lot more with it, and I'm fairly certain that it was actually cut content, that they did plan to do more with it, but they didn't. Regardless, by this point, I've progressed far enough to get to the Heist quest. This is one of my favorite missions in the entire game, and I know it probably seems like I'm flying through the game right now, and it's because I am. This recording was about 30 hours long, this entire challenge, so I'm skipping over a majority of the dialogue in this game and a lot of the combat sequences, just because I didn't really want to make a 4-hour long video on this specific run. By this point, me and Jackie have found the relic and are hiding in the pillar while watching Yorinobu execute his dad, which is fairly depressing. It's kind of sad that we never got to see more character development with Saburo in the game until, way later down the line, but we personally never really got to see a whole lot of that. Anyways, Jackie got shot, I fell through a building, and it was time to start clearing my way through the Arasaka guards so that we could escape the building. Sadly, Yorinobu's unique pistol was green rarity, which meant that I could not be using it for this run. That also gave me the implication that pretty much every unique gun going forward from this point on would not be usable, as it would be spawning at a higher rarity. I kind of wonder if it has something to do with your level now in the 2.0 update, and it's something I kind of want to go back and check to see, like, for example, if I pick up Chaos and do that specific mission, if I'm already like level 40 or something, if it spawns at a really high level, or if it's just a white rarity pistol because of where you are in the game. Anyways, I witnessed Jackie's death, which is a very depressing part of this game. He's one of my favorite characters, and I wish we got more time with him, hence why I wish the whole, road to being a master merc section was playable instead of just a cutscene. I got, betrayed by Dex and shot in the head shortly after, and got to play through an interactive cutscene. That basically just being anything that involves Johnny. Whenever you're playing through any of Johnny's segments, they're literally just interactive cutscenes. There's no health bar, there's no HUD, there's nothing. You're just playing the game. Johnny's pistol, typically, whenever you find it in-game, is usually purple or legendary, if I remember correctly, and you pretty much have to use it in his sections, so I will be using it, and I'm not going to count it as a violation of the run. Just like using the car later on, the car turret in Pan Am section isn't really a violation of the run. It's a forced section that doesn't really influence the actual game at all because I'm basically playing through a cutscene. So that's how I view these sections, and therefore that's why I don't invalidate them for the run. Anyways, I woke up from getting shot in the head, watched Takamura shoot Dex, and then had to do another on-rails car section. The pistol that they give you for this section absolutely sucks ass. I hate this gun with a passion. It's one of my least favorite guns in the entire game. At least the one that they gave me was common rarity, I guess, but I would literally never be using it again. With that whole shebang out of the way, I was in Victor's clinic where he let me know that I was basically screwed and I was going to die. This is where we're officially introduced to Keanu Reeves' character, that being Johnny Silverhand, who I absolutely love in this game. I think the story between V and Johnny is one of the best stories that we've had in RPGs in recent history. I know I'm probably going to get flamed for that in the comments, but I don't care, it's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Anyways, I talked to Takamura again on the phone after, he saved me from dying, and we met up in a diner to proceed with our plan to hopefully oust Yorinobu as the person that killed Saburo. With that done, I was off to deal with some other shit, one of those being that I needed to go find Evelyn, as I needed to ask her some questions about what happened to the relic. Normally when I go to Clouds, I try to do things in a very nice and quiet manner, and by that I mean I usually kill everyone. I did the complete opposite this time around and actually managed to entirely stealth through this area, which surprised me. Normally I can't go 5 minutes without blowing somebody's head off in any of these type of games, whether it be Fallout or Cyberpunk, so it was kind of nice to do things differently for a change and just not have to waste time with a really garbage common weapon. I nearly had a seizure and had to talk to Johnny again, who basically, laughed at me for my plan. And we got some more insights into his, mental process and everything. After that, I talked to Takamura again, and decided that I was going to wait a little bit on his questline and continue working through some stuff with Judy. I went to Jig Jig Street to get some more information on Evelyn, had to sit through a couple more BD sessions, which are just oh so fun, and me and Judy eventually went off to the electric plant where we knew that they were somehow keeping Evelyn. I don't know how they really just devised that from like a couple tiny details, but you know what, magic. We're just gonna go with magic. Anyways, I was setting up a pretty good stealth headshot build focused on mostly pistols at this point. The new skill tree was really damn fun. I'm really enjoying the build variety and the different things that we can experiment with the new update. It's not great with the fact that I'm trying to do this with, literal common weapons that suck, but we did manage to rescue Evelyn, most of which I'm going to skip over because I'm not entirely sure how much of that I can show without YouTube demoralizing me and demonetizing the video, so I would rather not put all the time and effort into, making this video and then get it demonetized because of some of the things that are shown in this game. Anyways, with that out of the way, I had some more stuff to take care of with Takamura. That being talking to Hanako's bodyguard, Oda, who was hopefully going to help us set up a meeting with Hanako so that we could tell her that her brother was a piece of shit. This did not go according to plan, which, none of us really thought it would be, so we took it over to Wakako so that we could hopefully get some plans from her about the parade that was upcoming. Me and Takamura had the great idea of infiltrating this parade and just, hijacking her float and talking to her that way. Of course, before I can do all of that, I have to go progress another different quest line. Kind of weird how they make you play multiple different quest lines at once in Cyberpunk, but it kind of helps when you have to wait on certain other things to progress. So, ignoring that, we're off to deal with Panam and the Nomads. This quest line is pretty slow to start. It's honestly just a lot of walking around and dialogue, but it does pick up action later on once you get over to where you need to go and ambush the people that stole Panam's shipment. I tried to stealth through the majority of this segment. A lot of the enemies had a little too much health for me to deal with just pure stealth, so I kind of had to go loud. Now, keep in mind, while I am on a stealth build, I can still do good in combat. My build does get really damn good later on, even with the fact of my weapon restrictions. But right now, body shots and basically everything that's not a headshot crit are pretty trash. Pretty much anything that's not a pistol or a sniper rifle is also pretty trash. Even the sniper rifles that I had at this point weren't very good. I don't think there's more than one sniper that you can even get in common rarity unless you farm it super early on. So I was stuck with pretty much a marksman rifle for the majority of the run until I ended up finding a sniper later on, which conveniently was in Panam's questline. We'll get to that later though, that's not important right now. For now, I had to deal with the little combat tutorial with the turret so that I could progress the questline to knock the Kang Tao transport out of the sky. This one was, a headache. This questline got really fucking annoying really fast. After Panam pulled a rocket launcher out of her asshole and then blew the transport out of the sky when the EMP burst failed, it was up to me to go over to the convoy and start clearing out the robots, and this was probably one of the worst parts for the run here. I spent about an hour here just dying over and over and over again because my weapons did jack shit for damage to the robots. I was getting hit with rocket launchers, I was getting hit by really high damaging guns that the robots had, I was getting hit by turrets, I was getting just screwed here. I spent way too many deaths here that should have realistically had to happen before I started just using the mountain to cheese shit, and even then it was still a pain in the ass. I died way more times than I realistically should have, and it was not fun. I was not having fun at this point, and so that's why I just killed the random guy that was still in there. After that, we have to chase down the holograms that are projected, vehicle lines for where the convoy is going. Not gonna pretend to understand how the tech behind that works, but you know what, it is in the future. This is also where I found aforementioned sniper rifle, which made the run oh so nice, at least for this section. I didn't use the sniper all that much, but there were sections that it was very nice to use. After the quest line pissing me off, I took my rage out on an innocent medic, kidnapped the guy that I needed, sat through more dialogue with Panam and the Nomads, which I could give less of a shit about this time, and talked to Hellman, who gave me some more information on the relic. He basically told me I was screwed and I was going to die anyways, and that I should just try to figure something else out, or just go to a hospital in Sweden so that they could ease my suffering. I had another little bit of dialogue with Johnny where he explained his moral compass and why he wants to tear down the world, got some more stuff with Mr. Hands and all that, and headed off to start the Voodoo Boy questline, since that would be, the easiest thing to do next, considering where I was at. I think Takamura had a lot more waiting at the moment, so I just felt like, actually making progress for the time being. Although he did call me right after I decided to do that, which meant that I could go progress his questline some, so that's exactly what I did. I do prefer to do his questline first, usually, and most of the time in a normal playthrough, I'll just wait to do all of his quests at first and then do the other ones later, because I really like Takamura as a character, and his questline, as far as the main 3 splits go, is probably my favorite. Not to say that the other 2 are bad, I just really despise the Voodoo Boys, so I usually save that one for last, just because I don't really have fun with it, and it's pretty boring to just sit through all of the dialogue and the cutscene shit after your first or second playthrough. It just kind of gets really old. Clearing out the mall was pretty challenging, to be honest. It was kind of a headache. There were a lot more enemies in here than I remember, and I was still doing jack shit for damage since my build wasn't really set up at this point. I was still kind of progressing to get the skills that I needed, and again, common rarity guns. The sniper helped immensely. I tried to kill Sasquatch multiple times. It did not go well. I died more times than I realistically should have here, again, before just deciding that, hey, fuck it, I can stealth through this section and steal her weapon from her and then just pretend that it doesn't exist. After that, I found the Netrunner agent, who I just killed. I mean, I had no reason to talk to him or anything. There was really nothing he could say that could convince me not to put a shotgun shell in his head. The Voodoo boys thought I was dead, which was pretty funny. I planned on killing them, but I wasn't really that confident in my ability at the end of this little quest line, because it puts you in a room with like 10 or 20 of them, and it's kind of scary, and I thought I would maybe get soft locked there if it like auto-saved right as I picked the dialogue option to try to kill them. I had another little on-rails section with Johnny in his past, where I got stabbed and then had to use his gun more. Did I mention I actually really loved this gun? I think this is probably one of, if not my favorite guns in the game. It's just absolutely badass. It's so fun to use, and I absolutely love it. I'm just sad it's kind of nerfed in the actual game instead of just Johnny's cutscenes. But anyways, ignoring that, I got through all of his dialogue and all of his events with his past, and then had another quick discussion with him before moving on to the next bit, which was, of course, the DLC introduction. Normally, I'm not used to this being here, since, well, the DLC is brand new. Speaking of, this video is going to have major spoilers for the DLC, so if you'd like to avoid that, you can watch to about the point where I finish the base game if you're interested in that, or just don't watch any further than this. Once I got back through, dealing with the Voodoo boys and everything, I just did some side quests. I had some waiting around to do before I could progress anything else, and there's really nothing of note here. It's just go here, kill a couple people, move on, for the majority of the side quests that I picked anyways, so I just did that until Takamura called me and let me know that it was time for Arasaka Industrial Park. This happens to be one of my favorite missions in the actual game when I'm playing through normally. On this challenge run, not so much. I didn't really have the damage or health to survive just brute forcing this place. I didn't really have the damage to stealth this place, so after multiple attempts on, both systems, I thought that, you know what, why don't I just try running and seeing if that works. So I spent about half an hour here trying to just do it the normal way, and then figured, you know what, we're just gonna run. So running is what I did, and running actually worked. I killed a couple people in the way, mostly just spamming grenades or using a shotgun. Died, a couple times, because it wouldn't be me if I wasn't constantly dying to some stupid shit. At least I don't really get noob-tubed that much in this game. Thank God there's no rocket launchers in this game. But eventually I made it to the float, uploaded the virus, and climbed my way out of the roof. So I was done with that quest. That was terrifying and honestly really sad to sit through. Once that was done, I had to obviously do some more waiting, which sucks. But again, I'll just skip forward past all that since we don't really want to just sit here and watch me do side quests for half an hour, even though that's exactly what I did. It was at this point though that I went and picked up Chaos, which was an absolute godsend. And yes, the game does label it as a common weapon, whether or not you want to think that, because, it is an iconic, so I don't know if somebody's going to complain about me using it because it's not technically a common weapon since it's an iconic weapon, but the game labels it a common weapon, so I'm allowing myself to use it. There was literally only 2 iconic weapons I got that were common, and one of them is Dying Knight, which is pretty shit. I don't really like that pistol at all. I've never liked that pistol. It's just not great. Anyways, after that, I had to go do the parade event, which, again, is another one of my favorite missions in the game. One thing I was extremely concerned about here, though, was the boss fight with Oda, because Oda can be a pain in the ass, even on a prepared character, and I was, again, playing this entire run on very hard, which was pretty concerning. Also, I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention that earlier in the video, but yeah, we're playing on very hard. That's why enemies melt me so fast, and that's why I do fuck all for damage. Anyways, onwards to Oda, after, I nearly blew myself up with mines. This boss fight was challenging to start because I thought using a tech revolver that I found earlier that was common rarity would be a good idea. It turned out to kind of suck, and so I just started abusing Chaos, which is an absolute beast of a pistol. I swear this thing had to get buffed or something. I don't remember it being this good whenever I used it on my first or second playthrough, and I don't think I used it ever after that. Anyways, Oda went down. I actually spared him because I didn't really think killing him was fair, and Takamura asked me to. He talked to Hanako and then proceeded to kidnap her and take her to a motel, which I went and met them both there so that I could explain to her that her brother is, again, a piece of shit. Arasaka tried to kill all of us, because why not? Anyways, with that out of the way, I just murdered everyone in here. I wasn't interested in leaving Takamura behind. Fun fact, you can actually do a secret hidden objective here to go back and save him if you pick the right path right before leaving the building. So it is possible to keep him alive. Not a lot of people know that, so I thought it was pretty interesting, and that's what I always do in my playthroughs, so I share it. It's at around this point that one of my favorite dialogue sequences happens with Johnny. It really shows how much you two grow together to become friends and understand one another at this point in the game, and he basically agrees to kill himself to save you if it comes down to it. But with that, the base game is pretty much done. I'm not going to be doing the last little segment of attacking Arasaka Tower with anyone because we're starting the DLC. So the DLC starts by letting me know that the president is on a plane that is about to crash into Dogtown, which is a pretty bad area of Night City. Dogtown is basically like Pacifica, except a lot worse. The cops don't go there, a lot of the citizens don't go there. Basically, it's its own little state that's governed by one dude with his own militia, and nobody really goes there because they'll just get fucked up. So I decided, the game told me that I could stealth my way through this area and get into the city undetected. I said fuck that and started blasting heads. This took me quite a while. I was here for about half an hour just killing people, but I wanted all the juicy loot and everything, and then found where it would let me in stealthily. So we're gonna pretend that I noticed that first and then just chose to blast my way in. I kind of thought it was mandatory. I also tried to jump onto a moving platform, which didn't work out very well for me, and we're going to ignore that. Had to deal with some more dialogue with Songbird. I was actually playing this DLC pretty slow as far as the challenge run goes. Normally I speed my way through shit as fast as possible because, again, it's a challenge run. I've played the game 100 times. I don't need to sit through all the stuff, but this is my first playthrough of the DLC. My subs basically bullied me into playing this for my first time on this specific challenge. I planned on doing its own video down the line, but I didn't really get that option because I got cyberbullied by my comment section. Anyways, this DLC is absolutely phenomenal. I'll leave my little tidbit of reviews till the end, or maybe I just won't review it at all so that I don't spoil it for people. I'm going to skip a lot of the stuff in the DLC actually, just because I feel like it's something that you really should play for yourself. This DLC is absolutely phenomenal storytelling. It was probably some of the most fun I've had with Cyberpunk, and this combined with the 2.0 update really just brings this game out. It is absolutely amazing, and I fully recommend, if you've tried it in the past and hated it, to give it another shot because it is fantastic. At this point, also, my sniper pistol crit headshot build, whatever you want to call it, was doing really well. It was pretty much fully set up and spec'd to do maximum headshot damage, which made it actually easy to start clearing through enemies. I got my shit kicked in by the president, which was pretty funny. She's an absolute badass that just beat the shit out of me, which I wasn't really expecting, and then we had to fend off some more waves of enemies. I also died to gravity once again because I thought that I could clear a jump that I obviously couldn't, and started fighting my way through the enemies. Some of the enemies here are decently strong, some of them aren't that strong. It's just kind of dependent on what weapon I'm using and what tactic I'm employing, but pretty much at this point my pistols were doing really good damage. Although I will say I did test it out after the run was over. I was averaging anywhere from 50 to at most like 150 damage on a sneak headshot crit with my current common pistols. At the end of the game, I decided to just grab a random purple pistol in my inventory and see how much damage a, sneak headshot did with it, and it was about 400 to 900 on average. So it kind of shows how little damage I was doing this run. It's pretty sad. But ignoring that, we got to fight a giant killer robot, which was basically just shoot the weak spot multiple times, hide behind a pillar, kill drones, shoot the weak spot some more. You know how it is with boss fights like this. Although it was a pretty damn hard fight. I mean, I nearly died multiple times here. I wasted my healing items a lot. And after that, it was just time to take Myers to a secure building. As secure as it can be in Dogtown. Got some more dialogue with Johnny, who wasn't really interested in siding with them. Some random homeless people came up on us, and I had the option of talking to them or killing them. I, of course, chose the latter because I wanted to take their guns and sell them for free money. Anyways, I had some more dialogue with Myers, who wanted me to go deal with one of her sleeper agents that she was going to activate. She basically adopted me into the bootleg version of Cyberpunk's FBI, which was kind of interesting. And that's where the whole, spy thriller DLC comes from. I was trying to see how that tied into it with the starting of the DLC being, basically just go rescue the president, but now I kind of understand and it makes sense. Once I got to the restaurant where I was supposed to meet the dude, one of the absolute funniest segments of this game kicked in. Johnny trying to show V how to use a actual landline telephone because those don't exist. I met up with Reed, who instantly put his pistol in my gut, and this is when we meet Idris Elba's character, who is Solomon Reed for the DLC. In my personal opinion, he absolutely killed this character. I think his performance was fucking amazing, and he really made the DLC stand out. Probably him, along with the DLC having an absolutely fantastic story and adding more to the base game with different endings and stuff, really make it shine. This DLC was phenomenal. I honestly can't praise it enough. I know you've probably heard that a lot if you've been, watching a lot of stuff about Cyberpunk online or played it yourself, but I really just can't explain how much I enjoyed playing this. Even though I had a shitty challenge going and I was just using a garbage set of guns, it was still absolutely awesome to play through, and I had a lot of fun doing so. Me and Reed had to meet up with Alex, who is one of his old FBI buddies, since we needed them to proceed with our mission, and that was a bit of a clusterfuck since she doesn't really like Reed, and I kinda had to convince her to come help us. Once that was out of the way, I had to just deal with some more enemies. Me and Reed were off to deal with a Voodoo Boy hideout that had some information that we needed, more likely somebody that we needed. I also got a mini boss fight here, in where I took out a Voodoo Boy server to, stop them from hacking shit. We met up with the Voodoo Boy, who was crippled and blind, so I'm not sure why exactly Reed thought he was a threat, but we went into some more dialogue, figured out that Songbird was indeed alive and okay, and that I would need to be rescuing her. This, in the end, killed the Voodoo Boy that we were working with, and I got a great close-up of Reed before finding out that we needed to attack Hansen's tower. Hansen is, of course, the dictator of Dogtown. I tried to steal Reed's car before moving on, which didn't work. Had to go do some more side quests while I waited for Reed to do some reconnaissance, which is just, the normal. I'm gonna skip over a lot of this again, but it was pretty standard stuff, same stuff I did in the base game. I met up with Mr. Hands face to face, which was honestly a shocker to me. I really didn't expect them to throw him into the DLC. That was fairly interesting and something that I wasn't expecting, so it was pretty cool. Anyways, moving past that, I did some more quests for him, and then got back to the main story after Reed contacted me and let me know that his reconnaissance was done. With that, they updated us on the plan to infiltrate the hotel. My role in that, of course, being that I had to swim through some tunnels. I got this absolutely badass suppressed pistol that was iconic, and purple rarity, which meant that I couldn't use it, which absolutely depressed the shit out of me for this run because it was such a badass pistol. I will 100% be using that on my own personal playthroughs though. That thing is so cool. Anyways, I dove through the tunnels to get into the tower. This was, pretty standard. There was nothing down there that really mattered. There was no enemies or anything. I didn't have to start fighting enemies until I got into the actual hotel, and then we had another on-rails section where I got to use a remote control sniper rifle. Again, this isn't a gun that I pick up or anything, so I'm not going to really count it for the run. I just had to sit here and protect Reed while he was moving across the balconies and shit. The game does give you the sniper after the whole segment of you using it in the remote control thing, so I'm not sure if it really invalidates the run because the sniper itself, after you pull it out of the machine, is purple rarity. So I don't know if that technically counts as me using a purple rarity gun while it was in the remote control thing. I honestly don't know the specifics on that. I'll let you guys honestly decide in the comments if you want to invalidate the run due to that, so it's up to you, really. Honestly, that's kind of your guys' personal decision. I really have no idea what to do there. Anyways, I got to do some gambling and got some New Vegas flashbacks, which kind of makes me miss playing New Vegas, and now I want to do New Vegas video next. I had to get some information on these two twin netrunners because we were going to kidnap them and steal their identities for later so that we could get into Hansen's compound. Apparently, Songbird found a thing that can basically cure us and, get Johnny out of our head and, not kill us in the process. So that's what we were up to. We basically got into the hotel to find out that she was prisoner herself and had to rescue her, and by rescue her, we had to steal their identities and infiltrate ourselves because Hansen wasn't going to let her go. The plan was lined out. We needed to infiltrate the twins' car, steal it, and then steal their identities by finding them and locking them away so that, of course, they wouldn't interrupt us while we were trying to deal with Hansen and his men. Songbird had a private little meeting with me and let me know that basically she wanted to get out of the bootleg FBI and leave, and promised to make me help her. Anyways, after that, I had another conversation with Alex and some more dialogue before moving on to the final step of the plan. Once this was all ready, I had to go do some more random shit, just finding some towers and then scanning the vehicles to find out which one the twins were in. This is a lot of stuff that I'm skipping over a little bit, so again, I kind of recommend you to play the DLC for yourself. There is a lot that I have skipped over in this video, like major plot points, a lot of shit. It's too much to include at once. Anyways, I hijacked the twins' car with them in it. They got, kidnapped. We'll say that they got kidnapped. Anyways, moving on, we stole their identities, which actually changed the HUD color as well, back to the whole, Johnny on Rails cutscene thing, which was really interesting to me. I was kind of surprised that I couldn't change the HUD color myself to something like this, because I actually really prefer this HUD color. It kind of feels nicer on the eyes, I guess. Me and Songbird got to work on the neural matrix vault thing, and I'm not going to pretend to understand any of that. I watched Alex in her disguise absolutely murder the shit out of Hanson. Dude got stabbed 48 times. Decided that I was not going to betray Songbird, because you have that option here to side with Reed and Alex and betray Songbird to kidnap her because they want to keep her in the FBI, and I sided with her instead and started helping her escape. This is, again, just more killing enemies. I didn't have my guns at first, but thank God for the crafting system, because I could just make a couple guns to use while I wait to pick up my guns out of a locker, which was literally right after I got done crafting guns and killing 3 enemies. It was pretty sad that I had to do that, but you know what, we're just gonna move past that. Anyways, me and Songbird escaped the stadium, took getaway cars, and left the city, and that was that. After this, it was quite literally 3 full hours of just waiting for dialogue and doing side quests, which I'm going to include none of. Whether or not you want to believe that I just stuck to using common weapons through that is up to you guys. I don't really fake anything in my runs, and I have no reason to, so I'm just skipping past it for the sake of not bloating the video with unnecessary content. Anyways, I eventually got a call from Reed, basically telling me to go fuck myself and that I should have turned Songbird in, told him that it wasn't really his decision. Had to talk to Songbird as well, because it was up to us now to get her out of the city. We were supposed to take her to a flight that would take her to the moon, which would let them basically test her as a lab rat and get the whole neural matrix thing working as a cure. The thing is, this section has some forced stealth, which isn't really that bad, honestly. None of it is really that, outlining or anything. None of it's a war crime to go through. Some games have really bad forced stealth segments. This is not one of them. This is actually really easy, and for the most part I just kind of walked through it and then got to the roof where I could pull Songbird up, because she just, I don't know, held herself on a cable or something. After that, Reed, the president, and the rest of the FBI arose, and that was pretty much, the end of our easy way out. After this, and getting some more dialogue and information, it was basically a bloodbath. This entire final segment is so much combat. It's an hour straight of just constant combat, which was actually really fun, because by now I was almost max level. My build was set up to pretty much a T. I was pretty much as high damage as I could get, minus a couple skills, and I was just shredding people. I started using that tech revolver that I gave up on way earlier in the Oda fight, and it was absolutely insane. This gun was doing 300 damage headshots. It was crazy. It was so good, and it felt really good to use a gun that didn't suck for once. Songbird started having some issues with her injuries and her, entire cybernetic system, so I had to help her. Cleared out some more enemies by spamming fire grenades. For some reason, the fire grenades have insane charge rates in combat, so I started using those over regular frags. We had to hack a train and fight a whole bunch more enemies, which was again just pretty much a standard sit here and survive segment. Me and Songbird linked up to use the black wall one last time, because we were pretty much pinned by a bunch of guys and a helicopter. After that, I basically just exploded the helicopter with my mind. I'm not going to pretend to understand how any of this segment works either, but, I nearly died to the helicopter, which was pretty depressing. After that, I turned into the equivalent of a fucking Darth Vader clone, because I could just kill people with my hand. I'm not sure why they let us force choke everybody. After that, I got the absolute bombshell dropped on me that Songbird knew that there was only one cure all along. The neural matrix can only be used on one person, and she was going to use it on herself. After this revelation, because it was a complete shocker to me, that again, this is my first time playing through the DLC, I gave her over to the FBI and Reed, in promises that they would cure me instead of her, and they would try to find another way to cure her. Again, I could have probably made a better moral decision there, but I picked to save myself and V over, just saving Songbird. And it's kind of a shame, because she was probably my favorite character in the DLC. I got some time to kind of sit there and process my decision with the outro credits for the DLC, met up with Reed in Night City one last time before he's leaving, and we had a quick little chat. I did a whole bunch of side quests, probably another 3 hours before I was ready to go get the cure, got onto the transport and had a absolutely gut-wrenching conversation with Johnny. He was basically complaining at me that I was going to be killing him to let myself live. I skipped into the surgery and woke up, finding out that it was 2 years into the future and that V was essentially dead in the water as his cybernetics were no longer a thing. He could never use cybernetics ever again, and he was essentially just a regular person now. Going back to Night City has a lot of interesting dialogue with anyone that you made friends with, and I'm going to skip over that section completely because I feel like it's something you need to experience yourself if you pick this route in the DLC specifically, and we're going to just call the video right there. I did beat Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty with only common rarity weapons. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave suggestions in the comments below. I appreciate you guys giving me ideas for future videos. I thank you guys so much for the support. It has been absolutely amazing to grow this channel with each and every one of you, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.